Let's talk to Sam Chaos in England. Sam, you're live with Eric and V. I think it's still queuing you up. There you go. Sam, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Hey, what did you want to talk about today?
I wanted to get your guys' takes on other minorities being able to coexist with like the broader atheist community, especially online.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, like what kind of minorities?
I mean, take your pick. Other minority religions, neurodivergences, the LGBT plus community. I'd say people of color, but I don't want to speak on that because doesn't affect me.
I am. So I'm Mexican, and I'm here.
So
Hi.
we've got the whole rainbow involved.
Yeah. This is an incredibly diverse show. You have a person of color, you have two queer folks, and we have a non-binary person. I think we're just ticking boxes all the way down.
Oh my gosh.
So maybe we're good to ask. What about coexisting? And I'm not understanding the question.
So. I obviously know you guys are part of minorities, so I guess the first part of it for me was, have you guys experienced that being part of other minorities within the atheist community makes things harder? Because for me, even ignoring my paganism, for those in the audience who don't know, I spend a significant amount of time in atheist spaces despite being pagan.
Maybe a little bit because you're pagan and you're excited and wanting to talk about have these conversations.
Sometimes I'm just hanging out with Neil.
Sure.
But I will quite often find that if I go into a new space where I've not been before, about half the time, I will have to justify something about my existence for at least a couple of hours, be it my autism, or being non-binary, or being aromantic.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if it's going into a friend's pre-existing stream and they have someone in there who hasn't spoken to me before and they throw a fit, or I go into the atheist community of Austin's Discord and I'm immediately jumped on by like 3 people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. It's been better than it was when I first got started, and I think that's just the result of kind of becoming a familiar person who's spoken out about it enough that people are not as taken aback or as confused. But starting out, absolutely was horrible.
Yeah.
And yeah, still going into new spaces. And there's this concept of I don't want to sound full of myself here. I don't want to be tooting my own horn, as it were, as my mom would say. But there are things that I can say that will fall flat that somebody else of a different group could say that would get them standing ovations, right? And so it does become this kind of selective hearing as well. So yeah, 100%, I think you're spot on that there are problems, and it's not unique to atheism, right? And it's not worse in atheist spaces as opposed to other spaces. In fact, I would argue that...
I disagree.
Really? Interesting.
I got less shit for my autism in the Christianic cult I grew up in than I do in most atheist spaces.
Wow.
So here's how I think about it. Honestly, I think that you have these growing communities, and when it's small, it's just packed with people that you may not like, and it can be contentious. And as it grows, it segments off into smaller groups that grow on their own. And I think that's just kind of how people work. And I've definitely noticed that in atheist community spaces, you're seeing that. You're seeing these groups kind of spawn off of each other. Like you listed a couple of Discords that you're not getting good engagement with, but you also hang out with Neil and you found a space that you can engage in. I think and I know it's probably over optimistic, but I see it as a sign of growth, and that the more people are kind of staking that, hey, this is a place where people like me and people I want to have these discussions with can safely have these discussions. I think that we do introduce more and more diversity and more places for people to have those. I think that we're now getting and have moved beyond the point of the idea that somebody can get expelled from the atheist community, because it's been growing and growing into a separate series of, communities that disagree with each other.
I'm curious, Sam, do you find for yourself, based on the various intersections of your identity, that some are more contentious than others? Because I've certainly noticed that. I think that we are way behind where we need to be, and kind of patting ourselves on the back for being like, "Ooh, we let women and gay people talk. Yay, us."
Oh,
and
God,
then
that becomes performative.
Yeah, and then it becomes this thing where, okay, well, we did it, right? We're done. And everybody else is like, no, like, we still need a seat at the table, please. Sam, What are your thoughts there?
So my thoughts are that I definitely agree with you, Eric, that it is a sign of growth, and that's why I'm discussing it rather than rolling my eyes and going, another group of dickheads.
Well, I mean, you could do both.
Please do both. We deserve it.
Both, but I'm not. In fairness, I did do that. I'm just not just doing that.
Fair. Good.
But I get different types of shit for different things. So often, if I mention I have autism, people will start talking to me like I'm a 10-year-old. But if I mention that I'm non-binary, people want to quiz me on how sex works and shit like that for the next 3 hours.
Yep.
I'd also like to point out to people in the chat that my pronouns are they, them, not he, him.
They're on the screen, people. Come on.
I think that, like, I probably weirdly get the least shit for my paganism, because if someone tries to come after it, none of the usual arguments really work, and I have responses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one of my special interests as someone with autism.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think honestly, it speaks to me to this overconfidence just in general in communities that deconverted and feel like they're all that because of it. And yes, it's a huge fucking thing to deconvert and to find a new community and to find a new worldview and build that from the ground up. That's huge. But that doesn't mean you're done. And I think a lot of the time people are like, oh, well, I know all the arguments against God now, right? And then you throw Sam into the mix, and all of a sudden they don't work anymore. And because they don't want to seem like they don't know things, they back off. Whereas if they can say, well, sex and gender are the same thing, and hold to that line, and have people like fucking Dawkins come out and be like, yeah, you're right. Then
you're just clipping my wing.
They can feel advocated for and more confident in being an aggressor. So I think it just comes down to being, like we were talking about with Fred prior, it comes down to being like honest with yourself about how much you know and how much you don't know, and being a little bit more humble, I think, and being like, hey, maybe I don't know all the answers, and maybe my initial reaction of, oh, that feels weird, is not because I intuitively know what is correct, but rather, oh, I need to look into this more. I need to learn more.
And I think that just kind of one last thought that I wanted to throw out there, and that is that there are plenty of religious denominations that hate each other's guts. They still vote the same. And I think that's something that we have to recognize, that we can be allies and not have to agree on everything. And we can dislike each other a lot, but still vote together on issues that we find valuable and important. And I think that this idea of kicking somebody out to the point that they are no longer, like, we have to recognize there are people that are in this world that are just not like us, that we don't like, that are going to be dicks, but that does not disinclude you from finding a community of your own that you belong in. And it does not disinclude them from being a part of that larger culture. It just means that there are assholes in it. But we do have a couple of other calls we want to get to. Sam, thank you for calling. And one of these days, we're just going to need to sit down and talk about your paganism.
One of these days, sooner rather than later, because I'm going to see you soon, aren't I?
Oh, yeah, in like a week and a bit. I'll see you guys.
You're going to be at Faithless Forum?
Yep.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Good. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It will be.
That's going to be great.
If we can get the water working over here. Jeez. Sam, you take care of yourself.
Yeah. No worries.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
I think I heard the construction truck outside, so I think it might be working.
Well, we will find out in half an hour.
Yeah. So people are saying that my voice is still too deep, that I'm too close to the microphone, and so I'm backed away from the microphone. Let me know if this is better. Look, I hate my voice too. Like, I get it, but there's not much we can do about it. Just know that if you absolutely hate it, I hope that you can find a show and a host that works for you, that you can find that community that works for you, because you deserve to have that too. But I don't know what to say.